Hi there, I'm Mike Larson, editor-in-chief of MoneyShow and host of the upcoming MoneyShow Masters Symposium in Sarasota. Today, I'm pleased to be speaking with one of our sponsors who's going to be joining us there. His name's Charles Williams, CEO of Pioneer Realty Capital. Charles, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you today, Mike?
I'm doing very well. We're really excited that you're going to be joining us for this event. Your company has a great background. I know you're sort of working on and helping people make money, but also help with some social issues out there. So why don't you start a little bit with your background, how you got into this business, and what it is that Pioneer does?
My personal background, I started out as an engineer, and I worked for a company, Johnson Controls, for a number of years. Then I started my own temperature controls company, designing automated control systems. And then I decided I would really like to learn how money worked. So I went back to graduate school. I earned a master's degree in accounting and finance. And it was really an eye opener to me. And I was so, impassioned by the knowledge I had just obtained that I decided to open a business in 2003 called Pioneer Services, where we help arrange the financial records of small businesses and go out and find capital for them. And 22 plus years later, here we are. Not only have we succeeded in raising capital for others, we've succeeded in raising our own capital. We've morphed into becoming an owner and developer, and now we're in this position to provide investors with this unique opportunity.
Got it. And I want to specifically talk about projects in student housing and how you're involved in that. But before I get to that, investors can invest in real estate in any number of ways. I mean, you've got people who own property, they act as landlord, they got to answer the phone at 12:30 when somebody's got an issue, and you can invest in public REITs and so on. How does Pioneer and the structure of your business and offerings fit into that sort of real estate spectrum?
That's a great question. The profile of our average investor is that person who's retired and they're not looking for a job. They're looking for mailbox money. They're looking for something they can invest in that will give them a secure income on a monthly basis, and nothing is more secure these days than real estate because there's such a high demand. So I would say that's the main difference in ours. You know, you can go out and become a real estate investor, buy houses and do all the work. You can buy apartments, do all the work yourself if you want to, but you're looking for a job. But for investors that are looking for that passive income in a stable, predictable market, I think that's what sets our fund apart.
Got it. And let's now talk about the subsector of student housing. I mean, again, just like anybody can invest in different fund structures, you can invest in pretty much any subsector of real estate. What are some of the things people need to know about investing in student housing, and what is it you're trying to accomplish by focusing on that area?
Yeah, so the student housing, we became aware of the high demand for student housing with the property that we own near the campus of Prairie View A&M University, which is part of the Texas A&M system. It was interesting when we opened in 2022, we got our certificate of occupancy in July. August 1st, we were 100% full with a waiting list of 160.
Wow.
And then the next year, the university came and said, we just don't have enough housing. We're about 3,000 units short. We would love to master lease this from you.
Okay.
And in that relationship, what we learned is that universities as a whole have an issue with providing beds for students who are going to school. But that's especially the case in tertiary and secondary markets. Many of these tertiary markets, which here in the state of Texas, most of the public universities are going to be in these small towns, these tertiary markets, and major developers are not willing to take the risk of
Yeah.
putting a student housing asset of three or four or 500 beds in a small town. And so that we started figuring out a solution to that problem. by working with the universities and creating a structure and a program that would benefit the university and ultimately benefit our investors.
Got it. And let's talk about, the PRC Equity Fund and how an investor gets involved. What are some of the issues with minimums, expected returns, all the sort of like nitty-gritty details. What does somebody need to know if they're kind of exploring this opportunity?
Well, that's a great question. This is our third fund that we have successfully operated or am operating rather. This fund, we had gone to an event in Las Vegas and we met with some of the principals of the IRA club. And they said, Charles, you guys have a great product, a great program. The only problem is the majority of the folks who we serve can't invest in your fund because they're not accredited investors. And they said, if you had a Regulation A fund that would allow non-accredited investors to invest, we are certain that not only will you create a great opportunity for investors in general, but especially those retirees with limited investment dollars who are not accredited, but really deserve to invest in an institutional quality deal. So that was the impetus behind our structuring this investment opportunity so that the everyday person would have the opportunity to invest in institutional quality deals.
Okay. And what should someone expect? I mean, if they put their money in, what are the dollars being used for? What specific projects or locations? How does that unfold over the next year or two or three?
Absolutely. So let's talk about our projects and then we'll kind of back up and talk about the projected returns and what our investors are actually receiving right now in return on their investment.
Sure.
So there are a couple things that we do with PRC Equity Fund. PRC Equity Fund provides the upfront capital to transact a deal with our nonprofit organization. The ultimate owner of the property is our nonprofit. So, in a sense, the nonprofit is the customer of PRC Equity Fund. Now, what's interesting about the nonprofit organization, it is a tax exempt public charity. And what that means is it has access to the tax exempt bond market, which essentially gives it access to unlimited capital. Now, if you're going to pick a customer, you probably want a customer that has access to unlimited capital, right?
That
And,
sounds right to me.
and that's who our customer is, Project PRC. And it is really is a true public charity. It has phenomenal programs. It has the rental assistance program to help students who fall on hard times. It has the eviction avoidance program that students can opt into. But more importantly, it has a rent subsidy program that universities absolutely love because it reduces the cost for at-risk students, first generation students, scholarship students, or those students that in general just need help. And so that's our customer. Now, on the PRC Equity Fund side, in order to get a deal from conception to a closed bond transaction, there has to be upfront capital put into the deal. That upfront capital pays for land, it pays for architects, engineers, legal, all that pre-development entitlement costs. Someone has to pay for it before we close the bond transaction. And so we use the money from PRC Equity Fund like a bridge to getting these projects done. And then when the bond transaction closes, then the PRC Equity Fund is repaid its original principal at a 2x multiple. And
All
so
right. Very.
that's how PRC Equity Fund earns money. In addition to that, in the case of a development deal, the owner of the land, the owner of the development is PRC Equity Fund. And that transaction does not complete until that till the project is finished, the development is finished. Now, the bond proceeds that are remaining in that deal, those go back to PRC Equity Fund as additional profit. So not only does it get a 2x multiple on the initial outlay of cash, in the case of a development deal, there's a profit margin that it also makes when it closes out the project and get the certificate of occupancies.
Got it. So we've covered some specifics of the fund, the operational structure, and so on. Just want to back up a little bit. If somebody's not familiar, they're from out of state, they're not familiar with the dynamics in student housing. Can you talk about the demand side a little of it? How is the Texas system growing? How is that impacting things? And sort of, going forward, how do you think the demand for student housing in general is going to be where you operate?
Yeah, so if we think about just real estate in general, it's cyclical. And so we've had some cycles that have made inventory limited. Now, there are a few things that's going to impact inventory. One, age of the property. Properties age out. They come to the end of its life cycle, so it needs to be replaced. In addition, our population grows. As the population grows, just the need and demand for education, the demand for housing, it grows automatically. Now, we've had some disruption in our economic cycles over the last 20 years. We had some market crashes, the mortgage-backed securities crisis. We had 9/11. We've had those events that really disrupted the money flow into projects. And so we had a number of years where there was no capital to go into developing additional housing in general, especially student housing,
Yeah.
but the population continued to grow. So the demand for housing in general, especially student housing, is significant. Now, while the major developers are addressing that demand in major markets at the larger universities, the demand for housing when those tertiary and secondary markets remain untouched. The population continues to grow, the demand for education grows, but the number of beds in those markets that has not grown. And that's why universities are highly motivated to enter into a partnership with our nonprofit organization, Project PRC, in the form of a master lease or an affiliation agreement because they need a way to fix that demand issue.
Got it. Well, you're going to be joining us again at the Money Show Masters Symposium in Sarasota, December 1st to 3rd. Somebody may be watching this and wondering what they're going to get out of your session. One of them is called Building Wealth, Building Communities. Talk just briefly a little bit if there's anything we haven't covered about, what somebody's going to hear about when they come join you.
Well, what they're going to hear about is one, how do good. You can do good socially and financially at the same time. Our fund pays a 10% dividend. It starts immediately. If you look at our investment deck, we preserve that dividend, and we're required to by the SEC because that's what we said we would do in our documents. So those retirees start getting that dividend right away. In addition to that, they share in 70% of the profits that are generated by the fund each year. So not only, so that means if you make a 12, let's say a $120,000 investment, and I like easy math, so that's easy math for
Don't
me.
we all?
$120,000 investment, you're going to get $1,000 a month. You're going to get a check around the 15th of each month for $1,000. Okay. In addition to that, at the end of the year, once our audited returns come back, and again, this being a public company, we're required to have audited financials. We're reported on edgar.gov. You can go look up PRC Equity Fund there and see our audited financials. But at the end of the year, when our accountants total up what the profit is, we're going to split that profit 70/30. 70% goes to the investors, 30% goes to fund managers. And so that's how your investors get to do good by being good, if you will.
Well, Charles, I really do appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to chat with me here. Viewers, if you are watching this again, you're going to get a chance to learn more about Pioneer, what they do, and what the investment opportunity is for you at the Money Show Masters Symposium Sarasota. It's December 1st to 3rd at the Ritz-Carlton there. I can't wait to see you there, Charles. Hopefully the weather looks like it's going to cooperate, and people are going to learn a lot when they see you.
Oh, we're excited about being there.
Excellent. Take care.